tell us about your inauthenticity radar.
Yeah. So my inauthenticity radar is actually, you're going to appreciate this because I can spot bullshit because I have been bullshit.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So
welcome to the Enlighten podcast, the enlightened journey of life. Because we're not just here to chase enlightenment, we are here to live life, to embody all aspects of ourselves, to bring the sacred into every day. I'm your host, Jen Hamilton, self-mastery mentor, tantra guide, and sacred rebel at heart. This podcast is a devotion to the art of knowing thyself. Through solo snippets, raw musings, and deep conversations with epic guests, we explore the sacred, the sensual, and the spiritual, diving deep into self-exploration and always leaving you with something to take away. This isn't just a podcast, it's a portal to awaken, to liberate, to remember who you truly are. It is an honor to have you here. Let's get enlightened. Hello, beautiful soul. Today, I'm joined by my very special guest, Brett D. Scott of Supercharged Freedom, who is known as Super-man and the Success Alchemist, who helps individuals and corporations to upgrade their mindset to achieve outcomes previously eluding them. His coaching journey began with the late Bob Proctor, notable star of The Secret movie. Having been recognized with many business awards, including Man of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Business Rebel of the Year, a TEDx talk called How to Unleash Your Inner Superhero, a book excellence award-winning book called Supercharged Freedom, and speaking on many stages. Brett truly helps people turn their bad habits and negative beliefs into their version of positive success and freedom. Brett has got an amazing story. I know you're going to love this episode. I do apologize for the audio quality on my mic. Unfortunately, we had a couple of technical issues, but I know that you will get so much out of this episode. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Enlighten podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and I am joined by Superman himself, Brett Scott.
I'm sorry to bring my cape. Maybe next interview we'll
have the cape.
Well, maybe at least the Superman emblem.
Yes,
which
yes.
people know me for. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Brett's joining me on the couch today for a cacao. So cheers to the good stuff.
Yeah.
The cacao is very thick. And the cacao is very thick is because it was made over an hour ago.
Okay.
And the reason it was made over an hour ago when he's sitting down now is because we had a few technical difficulties.
Yeah.
And what did we say? We were going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Everything is figure outable. Do I have cacao on my top lip?
No.
I feel like I have cacao on my top lip.
You're good. Teeth are good. Lips are good.
So my motto in life at the moment, especially when, I'm going through multiple transitions in my life, is everything is figure outable. And I know that, you've been on quite the journey in your life, and everything comes back to you for authenticity. Everything.
Yes.
Authenticity is where we want to take the conversation today because, we're all about the enlightened journey of life here, and we're here to share people's incredible stories of where they've come from, where they've got to, and always an important message. Before we get started though, Brett, tell us something that's lighting up your soul today.
The number one thing I think about every day is, am I in flow? And what that means to me is, am I on a frequency of joy, happiness? Am I present? Because so often we get caught up with what happened yesterday or weeks ago. And then more importantly, we worry about what's going to happen tomorrow and in the future. And will I make it? And when am I going to get my manifestations? So it's not that I don't think those things. It's just that I do my best to stay grounded, stay in flow. And so what lights me up is very small things, like very small things that some people might take for granted.
Yeah.
So every single day I thank God that I'm able-bodied, that I'm alive, that I can breathe, that I go through a list of gratitude every single morning as soon as I wake up. Sometimes even in bed, I'll just start saying it. So I find that's the thing that lights me up the most, is being present.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm so similar. first thing in the morning is like, okay, we've got another day here. What a gift. You know, and before we start the thoughts rolling of I've got to do this, I've got to organize that, the kids this, the dog this, the business that, before all of that, I just come home to myself.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part. You know, it's going, okay, let's make a really conscious effort to be grateful, to be present, and to, because it sets you up for the day, doesn't it? Like, tell us about a time where perhaps you've not done this, and what's been the knock-on effect of this?
Well, you know, I started my practice in end of 2018. So November, December 2018 was when I really got into the habit. And I can tell you there wasn't a day in a year that I missed. So it's not that I haven't missed a day. So I'm trying to think now, because it's very rare that I miss a day. But what I do know that happens, because I have more than just saying gratitude, there's other things that I do. So I always fill up my own cup.
Cup of cacao, yep.
Every day, that's what I do first, is I always look after me first, and then I can, overflow. So I'm trying to think, a day that I've not done it. I would say, like, thinking back even before I was in the habit of doing gratitude, I would say to you, it's very easy to get caught up in what happened yesterday most of the time.
Always.
Things that didn't go right, you know, and then you're thinking about the things that you want, and then you're worried about, are they actually going to come true? Is it actually going to happen? So you work yourself up. And so anxiety, depression, you know, how do we get sick? I find I haven't been sick I've been sick once, and that was only because of a COVID shot, which I wasn't going to get. But anyway, that's a deeper conversation.
That's a different podcast.
That's a deeper conversation. But the point is, the reason I haven't got sick is I always look after myself first.
Yes. Hells to the yes, because I'm all about that as well. I'm the same. I can't remember the last time I was sick. I've had a sniffle here and there. But I think it would be back in, 2020. I didn't test whether I had the spicy flu. It may have been the spicy flu, but I was really not well for about 4 days, and that was about it. But yeah, I find as well, I just don't get sick because I keep myself healthy. I am my number one priority, because if I'm not my first priority, like, I'm the captain of the ship. Yeah. If the captain goes down, the whole ship sinks, you know, like there's so many moving parts to our lives. You know, and so we really like that. I'm all about self-mastery, and it always comes back to self and who we are in relationships, who we are in business, who we are in any interaction will always come back to self. Yeah. You know, our beliefs, our conditioning, the things that we tell ourselves, our daily rituals and practices. And how we are in small ways is how we are in all ways. You know, so those little things that these little, you know, things that we do when we wake up in the morning, or the things that we tell ourselves, or the ways in which we pull ourselves out of situations, that just becomes our repeating cycles, you know. And I love who I get to be through doing this work. I love waking up every morning going, fuck yeah, life, you know, because it feels good.
You're right. And, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head. The work that we do. And so, you know, and I'm not saying everyone needs to go and become a coach or a mentor or therapist, but if everyone focused on how can I actually help others, or how can I make a difference, and not just think about it, but actually have a plan of action. Set a goal, set a target. So I know for me, because I'm so locked into what I'm doing, and I genuinely love helping people get to where they want to go. And I know the law of reciprocity says that I can't lose by helping others. So why wouldn't I want to help others?
Yeah.
But not just because of what I can get out of it, but because of how it makes me feel.
Yes.
You know, so I think that's a part of health as well. So that you become not only wealthier, but you become healthier because you're actually doing your best to make a difference with others or the world, or, you know, like I've got a much bigger mission that I'm on at the moment, which is demanding that I, you know, become bigger as well, and make sure that I stay authentic and not try and follow a trend. And, you know, it's so easy for everyone, especially commercially or on social media. You're seeing all these different people who are successful, and you think, oh, maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe that's how I need to look. No, Like,
It's
do you
not it.
like? Do you want to? Like, if you love that, and you try and you think, oh yeah, that actually is me, right? But we talked about it earlier, a little bit loosely, and authenticity is such a maybe a common word that's used. Oh, you're going to be authentic, and a majority of people who are saying you're going to be authentic are actually not authentic.
Exactly that. Yeah.
You know? And so that might sound a bit strange, but the first person that comes into my mind when I think of authenticity is Lady Gaga.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm of course not a singer. I'm not a well. I'm
Well,
well,
you've got a voice. You can
well,
sing.
yeah. You have. Well, I don't know if you've seen it.
Got legs. You're a runner.
I do do funny characters. That's part of my authentic fun that I do. So I do my mindset talks with these funny characters that I use off Snapchat. However, going back to Lady Gaga, I remember in the early days before she was really famous, just when she was coming out with her first song, I remember there was a lot of backlash. There were a lot of people going, "Oh, she can't even sing. You know, who does she think she is?" There was a lot of backlash. And she stood in it. She didn't back down, and she just kept going. And what has she done? She she did even more elaborate things, a meat suit and all sorts of strange, whatever. Like, she's just being an artist. She's having fun with it, you know.
Yeah.
So, and we could go back in history, think of Michael Jackson or Prince, or like they're very hardworking, but they're also really authentic in the way that they did their thing.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to look like anyone else or act like anyone else. They were doing their thing. And I know I'm talking about artists, but I think us as in whatever we do work-wise or how we want to show up, I think the key to it that I'm discovering for myself is, you know, with authenticity also comes, like I just mentioned with Lady Gaga, a bit of backlash because not everyone's going to like it. And I've had plenty of people say, Brett, you're not going to get to where you want to go by being that. Like, you need to do this. You should be thinking about that. And I pay attention. I listen. But if it doesn't resonate with my soul, I don't do it. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't do it. I don't do anything because other people say that's how you do it. Because what if the way that I do it is actually the way that no one's done it, and everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, how did Brett do that?"
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because, you know, you and I are both in the coaching industry. We're both, you know, in sort of like similar fields in the way in which we lead people, we support people, we guide people in their journey. And there's a lot of people doing that. And I love that because even though we could, you know, if we want to sort of taint it with the brush of it's an oversaturated industry, what I find is that when people have some kind of awakening, have some kind of process where they realize, okay, the service work is actually where it's at. I want to help other people because I've had a phenomenal transformation. Like whether it's, you know, through coaching, going to a retreat, getting your head in the bucket in an ayahuasca ceremony, you know, going out in the bush doing mushrooms, whatever that might look like. I think everyone has gone through something to get where they are, and then they realize with this magic, I can help other people, you know. But in saying that, I guess the darker side of this is a very unregulated industry for coaching and this kind of stuff.
Yep.
There are a lot of people going, okay, well, I can make bank here. There's a lot of deception that happens as well. There's a lot of false promises. There's a lot of people saying, I can get you from here to here, whether it's financially or in your relationship within yourself. And sometimes these modalities are great for that. Sometimes they do work. You know, I don't want to put down any particular modality, but there's also a lot of people going, how do I cash in on this industry, especially because it's unregulated?
Well, I love where you're going with this because I often think about it, you know, and yes, think about, I don't know when you started, but when I started in 2019, there were a lot of coaches, but it wasn't like it is now. And certainly on social media, it was not as, and maybe because we are coaches, we're seeing more of it than everyone. But you're right. And where I think it comes down to are two things. So number one, has the person that you're learning from, you're training with, have they actually gone through a proper transformation? Do you believe that they've gone through a transformation? How did they do that? So in my mind, I'm often, or not in my mind, I actually ask. Like I've worked with, geez, how many coaches have I worked with in the last 7 or 8 years? I keep investing in myself. But just like you, I'm looking at who is it that I'm actually dealing with, not only what runs have they got on the board, how genuine are they? And do they actually care about me?
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things that any of my clients, and I, I say this not so humbly, but only because I know it's the truth and I hear it from all the time. You can ask any one of my clients, does Brett actually support you to get to where you want to go? Has he actually done what he said he's going to do? Is he there? Like anyone will contact me or can contact me. There's not a day that would go by where I haven't spoken to someone. Whereas I've experienced with other coach, well, one in particular, one coach, took a week or 2 weeks to get back to me. And I ended up working with her as her head affiliate. And yeah, literally 2 weeks went by and I'm meant to be her right-hand man. And it was a great lesson. Yeah. So it was a great lesson for me as the coach going, I will never, ever put someone in that situation. You know, and so going back to, you know, the service industry, people who are going into it for the right reasons and people who are going, yes, of course, we all want to make money and live the best life we can. But it's also about you get paid for the work that you do. So you get paid, let me rephrase this better. You get paid more by helping more people. So the more people you help, the more money you'll make, like without even being too concerned about it.
It's true. It's true. And it's so interesting that I think a lot of, I'm going to say the word genuine coaches have gone through a fuck over by someone. I had the same thing for years. I was uncomfortable to walk anyone through inner child work because I had worked with someone who called themselves a coach. And on our first session together, it felt like she bludgeoned my inner child out of me to speak. Wow. And I went into, like, it caused me a fair bit of trauma. Like, it caused a massive inner disruption for me. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, what has happened? And through that, I was like, I can't, until I've healed through this, until I've actually, I guess, gone to the extremes and then healed myself through that and worked with other people through that to support myself, to be like, I will never be like that. I know that is not something that I would ever do to someone, because I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. Yeah. It's the same with you with communication with people. I'm the same. So my mentorship clients have access to me around the clock. And I say, like, you know, up to 12 hours based on the fact that there's, you know, clients, kids, all the things involved. Their texts are my priorities. Their voice notes are my priorities, because I'm on the journey with them. Yeah. You know, if I'm receiving someone's, you know, time, energy, and money, and they're putting trust in me to take them on a journey, you know, I'm like Dorothy collecting, you know, friends along the yellow brick road, you know, to get to the Wizard of Oz. Like, we're on a journey together.
Do you know, just in what you said there about we're friends, I remember when I first started, you know, the advice is you've got to keep your business separate from your friendships. And, you know, I thought, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I get it. I get why they're saying it, because you need to have boundaries, right? Yeah. But I can tell you, in the past, especially the last 2 or 3 years, not one of my clients, or every single one of my clients become a friend, but not one of my clients has abused my friendship. Yeah. In fact, they treat me better because we're friends. Yes. So it actually, yeah. Anyway, so there's some advice that you get, and I think, you know, you really got to, if it doesn't sit well with you, you've got to make the decision to do what feels right for you, and that might not work out, and you'll learn from that. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about learning, isn't it? It's all about learning as you go. Let's circle back to the authenticity piece, because there's this new, I guess it's been out for a little while, but this new information that the frequency of authenticity is higher than love.
Yeah, 400. Yeah. 400 times more powerful, apparently.
Than love.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what science that is, but when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's amazing. It makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. Because, you know, especially the people not only being authentic, but actually really seemingly, from what we said, not actually giving a crap about what certain people might say or do. In fact, sometimes even sounding almost rude in a way, but just doing their thing, right? Yeah. And you either like it or you don't. And I think that for me, like, even if I don't like that, I still think, wow, that's incredible that they can do that. And so in my mind, that's the level of authenticity that I want to be at. I'm not at that yet. And so where I think going back to, I'll bring it back to me in some ways to try and explain it. But the thing when it comes back to coaching clients, like what you said about the trauma that you went through with the child?
Inner child work. Yeah.
Now, you knew you weren't at a position to actually train people through that because of where you're at. Similarly, for me, like, I've made some good money along the way, but I'm not a multimillionaire at this point. So I don't coach people in how to make money, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't coach anyone in anything that I am not actually really good at. There's plenty of things I'm really good at, but making lots and lots of money at this point isn't in my bag of tricks. I know how to, when I say this, I've had plenty of clients that have 10x, 100x their incomes, but it's not what I train them in.
That's not what you teach. Yeah.
No,
that's not your area of genius. Yeah.
It's happened, but the areas where I know I'm good at have been part of the effect of helping them to do what they want on their journey. But I would say to you, going back to the authenticity piece, I think it's really important for all of us to be really clear and honest with ourselves about where we're at. And I don't mean just treat everything, oh, well, I'm this right now, because of course your reality in the future of the person you want to become, that'll be now. It won't be, oh my gosh, I'm here in the future. Yeah. How amazing is this?
I know. We could have a whole conversation on time.
Yeah. There's been a couple of things we've spoken about, and I thought, I could go much deeper on this.
Spin-off episode, to be continued. Yeah.
But I think I am going to do a tangent, but I think it'll be important because
I love tangents. Okay. Take me to the tangent.
Here's a tangent I think everyone's going to appreciate. When you actually get to a point in your journey, if you're, conscious of living your best life and you actually decide, I need to learn more about whatever it is that interests you, I think what you tend to do is you open up your awareness and you start to let go of some of the things that you would normally say, well, that's just my personality, that's just who I am. And then you start to think deeper. Like, I've had quite a few new friends recently say, you think really deep. Like, do you ever not think that much? And I go, oh, I don't even notice it. But I don't notice it because I just find it interesting. Like, I'm really always trying to figure out, how does that work? And without judgment, because, and here's the interesting tangent part. There was a point in, I think it was 2021, and during our spicy
flu season.
Spicy flu season. And I remember I had a day where I just thought, I actually think I'm too open-minded. I actually think I've opened up Pandora's box, and I can believe so many things that actually overlap. And I was thinking, maybe I'm going crazy. But seriously, that's how I was thinking. Now, I've read from 2018, I've probably read a couple hundred books. And this one book came up, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's no longer with us. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book in the mid-90s called Real Magic. Mm-hmm. It's a great book, by the way. It actually talks about magic and how it relates to manifestation, how it relates to, I won't talk about the book. I'm going to talk about this one point. So in the book, in the very beginning, in the introduction, he says, I get all these letters and poems and all sorts of people send me heaps of different things, and I get all this in the mail because I don't read everything, but I do my best to read as many as I can. And he said, the thing that I love the most about myself is I have a very open mind. I was like, oh, okay, thank God. and the reason I felt like that was, here's someone who has spent years, like lots of research, lots of talks, lots of books, he's really gone to the depth. And so I thought, if this person thinks having an open mind is one of the greatest things that he has, then thank God I have a very open mind.
Then you're okay.
I'm okay, So I felt like, oh my gosh, I can breathe now, and I can just be, and I can explore. And so I think the more that people, even moving aside from authenticity, but the more that people start to let go of what they think is like, this is how it is, the more fixed we are in the way that we think, the harder it is to find new things, and the harder it is to grow.
Yeah, that's true.
So growth demands that we let go of the old, or of, what we think is reality. And so, yeah, there's definitely deep
There's so many
channels
deep dives here.
that we could go on, because when I talk about being a mindset mentor or mindset coach, I'm actually a metaphysical mindset coach. And metaphysics to me is such a beautiful understanding of what's not seen to, and we might say 4D or 5D to 3D, and how does it correlate with each other? Like it's again, going to magic, it seems unreal, but actually what you'll learn along the way when you start to open up your awareness is that the unseen is actually more real than the seen.
Yes.
So
the same with esoterics, because with with all of my tantra teachings and training and the work that I do with tantra, there's so much esoterics in there. The esoteric philosophy side of it is what really drew me in to begin with. I'm like, I want to play in the world of the unseen. I want to play in the metaphysics. I want to play in the space outside of the reality. And I think there's times where I really feel for people that don't want to acknowledge anything outside of our tangible 3D reality.
Yeah.
I find that to me that would be a life of suffering.
Yeah. Well, I think it's scary. So
it is.
What I've discovered actually in recent times is more people are scared or fearful of change, even though they want to change, or they think they want to change, or they think they want, new aspects of life, but they're so afraid of it. And so what tends to happen is that they get fixated on what they believe is the truth, and they don't allow themselves to think about what if, And so I grew up in a spiritual household, which you don't know. So from the age of 14 to 18, I was heavily involved in spirituality. I was also yin yang. I was also balancing shoplifting and graffiti and what else? Stealing cars. Like, I was almost in juvenile detention, but I was very spiritual. Now, it doesn't make any sense.
I love it though. Right? I love it.
And I've not talked about this really with anyone in depth, but as a teenager, coming into figuring out who you are, spirituality is it's such a beautiful gift. When I didn't really understand it properly back then when I was 14 to 18, and I remember the reason I stopped my spiritual practices at 18, because my mum said to me, I noticed you're not doing, because I used to be in a meditation group and all sorts of elaborate things. She said, I noticed you've kind of put your spiritual practice on hold. What's going on? And I said, yeah, because I decided that I actually need to live in the real world. Now, my view on the real world, this is not the real world. That's my view. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not real for me right now, but I think the more people can get into the understanding that there is something that is unseen, that is more real, that you are not this body, you are not your name. And so when you can start to let go of some of the shackles that we've been conditioned with, right? We've been conditioned from a young age, child.
Yeah.
And we, if we think about it scientifically, as a child, from the age of, they usually say from the age of 3 to 7, depending on who you listen to. And they'll say that your subconscious mind is almost completely open at that age, and information is just download. And then as your mind starts to consciously form, then it just locks in whatever's been dumped in, basically.
Yep.
And so what we're doing as we become adults, and not everyone, not a lot of people, but us, what we tend to do is we go, okay, well, now I need to unlearn.
Yeah.
I need to unlearn all the stuff I learned.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that it's even possible that we are driven by, what's happened in that imprinting age. I always say 0 to 7.
Okay.
0 to 7 is what I learned, in my hypnotherapy and psychotherapy training, and it just makes so much sense, because when we look at, even throughout human evolution, we've always been the same. You know, we've always had to learn right from wrong, and then we've coded right and wrong as safe and unsafe. And then if our parents, our caregivers, our teachers says, you're right, you're wrong, you're good, you're bad, we're coding it as you're safe, you're unsafe, because there's either validation and praise, you know, for good and right, which means safe, or there's reprimand if you've done the wrong thing. And so if, you know, if one of our parents has not been okay with us sharing anger or sharing emotion, and you get in trouble for being angry or expressing yourself, then you learn, hey, I'm actually not safe to feel this emotion. Let's push it down.
Yeah.
Like, my voice is not valuable here. You know, I'm not allowed to say how I really feel. You know, the old saying, like, if we went into programming, children should be seen and not heard. Okay, so what does that mean? Shut up.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to, you know, we're going to the family's place, or we're going to a friend's place. Now be on your best behavior. Don't act up. Be quiet. Use your manners. Like, it was drummed in. And I get it, because, like, you know, polarity of that is little turd kids that have got no idea and grow up without respect. You know, but the things that were programmed in from such a young age, and I think I've shared this story before. I'm going to share it again. Love this story. It was only a few years ago. I was already doing this work, and I was in this sort of space of going to bed at night, and that's where usually the anxiousness would start to some degree. I'd be like, why am I going to bed? And like, you put your head on your pillow, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And it's like all of the things start happening. And you're like, this is why I'm a shit person. This is why this is happening. This is where this is going wrong. And I had to get to I was like, why is this happening to me? Why can't I fall asleep easily? Then I went back. And what did my mum used to say to me? I'd have a Barney with my brother and my sister. Go to your room and think about what you've done wrong. So I go to my safe space. Yes, Mum. Okay, go to my room. Okay, sit on my bed, my safe space, to just be sad or express myself. It's finally where I could cry and be upset. I've done this wrong. I've done this wrong. I've done this wrong. Because Mum told me I had to do it, and I listen to everything that Mum says because she's my primary caregiver, and she's the one that has to teach me how the world works. So I listen to her. So what do? We go to our room. We think about what we've done wrong. As an adult in my 30s, I've grown up going to my room and thinking about what I've done wrong. Right. So my evening routine is very different now, you know,
good.
Because this is the work. Like, this is the power of having a coach or a mentor like us that would take you through a journey like that, to find the things that are deeply rooted inside that can be like, you can pluck them out and be like, no, I'm good.
Do you know, I actually think this would be good coming from a masculine place. So I grew up with all females. Which is not so masculine. I had my mother, my grandmother, my two aunties, hence why they opened me up to spirituality. But what actually occurred, some family members and some extended friends had been through serious trauma, like horrible stuff. And growing up, there are plenty of things that happen, even as I mentioned, you know, that balancing act of being spiritual and loving and good. And then the other side, just, you know, after hours, I would be, doing things that weren't so productive. I never hurt anyone, but certainly weren't productive for society. So thankfully I didn't go too far. But my point is, I got to an older age, as in I was 44 by the time I realized I had trauma. Now, and we haven't even talked about how did I become Superman, but there were some serious things that happened, and I would think to myself that there were just some serious things that happened. That's not trauma. I didn't even understand that what trauma was. That it can be a very, like, a little thing. And then understanding the process of actually replacing or removing or forgiving. Oh my gosh. You know, I think that was the beginning part of really where everything started to become so much better. Right, that letting go phase. And I mention this from a masculine point because I think so many men, even if you told them, they go, oh, yeah, whatever. Like, and I would have said, yeah, whatever. But I got to a point where I started to open myself up to, why can I not change? Why do I have so many bad habits? Why are my behaviors not matching my thoughts?
Yeah.
So, yeah, once I started to remove some of those blockages, then when I made the decision about what I wanted to do, and then when I started to create a new habit, it actually locked in. It actually worked.
Funny that.
Oh, I was like, oh my gosh.
We have this thing called, amazing thing called neuroplasticity, where we can change our minds. We can create new neural pathways.
Yep.
We can change the conditions and the beliefs that have been locked in there for so long. We just need to know where to go to look for them. Yeah. And that is where, that's why I love hypnotherapy so much. This is even why I love past life regression therapy, because some of the stuff you can carry around in this life might not necessarily be from this life. That's a whole different tangent.
Well, I was thinking about it earlier. There's a book, and there's a story to this book as well, called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian L. Weiss.
Yep.
And I remember when I first read it, my mum had all these books on a bookshelf. That's why I knew the name, and it's part of the story, which I won't share now because it might be a long one. Anyway, but when I first read it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, it felt like such truth, made so much sense. And that one particular woman that he first takes through, who's having serious physical 3D problems, and as she starts to, go through the regression and start to move through, her life becomes amazing.
Yeah.
It becomes amazing. And yeah, I mean, that's an extraordinary deep one. I think the first regression, it was before Christ, like the life that just came in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and this is why I love metaphysics. This is why I love quantum physics and quantum science as well, because, according to quantum science, it's that all time is happening all at once. And this is what I explain to people, that it's not past lives, it's parallel lives.
Yeah.
Because I've taken people through regressions that are in the future. And they're like, I can't comprehend that. And it's because on this plane of existence, this 3D reality that we've landed in, we only know time is linear. We only have this concept of past, present, and future in a line. And I remember when I was doing my past life regression therapy training, I had an amazing teacher. She'd learnt through the Newton Institute, and she put me under, and I was doing a regression, and she said, I want you to imagine the timeline. And I said, no, I don't see a line. I'll tell you what I saw, and this is why I got this tattoo.
Oh.
I saw the flower of life as a spear, and I actually have a crystal with it engraved on the inside of it. And all of the pieces were all intertwined, all of the lives, all of the experiences, all of the people. So that that mesh became the reality. The reality of the mesh of reality, essentially. The fabric of reality was never linear. It was never in a straight line. It was all parts woven in together. And so that's why I got it tattooed on me. One, because I tell everybody about it. I'm like, this is what our lives actually represent. It's just easier than carrying around this crystal ball.
Yeah.
But I saw it, and it made so much sense, because I'm like, that goes into here, and that goes into there, and that goes into there, and all of the pieces fit together, and it's all beautifully woven into this sacred geometrical shape.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think about Metatron's cube, which is not too dissimilar to.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a whole other story with Metatron, which is actually part of the story that goes with Many Lives, Many Masters. And actually, funny enough, it happened up where I'm going after this, up at Montville. So Mullaney and then Montville. Maybe I'll just tell you the story.
I want to hear the story. I don't think I can wait for another episode to get. Okay. Let's sit back and listen to the story. Let's go.
So I don't think it'll be long. Anyway, there's a bookstore up in it's called Nexus up in Mullaney.
I love that store.
Yeah, yes. Crystals, books, aliens, all sorts of.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love going to that place. There's another story with the owner of that place, who's an incredible artist, and her son is kind of a Steve Irwin, like a young Steve Irwin, famous in America, and has a big YouTube channel. Anyway, that's a tangent. So in Nexus, I'm in there looking around, getting the energy, and I can hear a guy at the front saying, "Have you got any books by Brian L. Weiss?" And the lady's like, oh, no, who's that? And he said, oh, one of the books is called Many Lives, Many Masters. And I said, oh. And I thought, no, I didn't say it, thought to myself, oh, yeah, I know that book. And then she said, how do you spell Wheeze? And he goes, W, and I said, E-I-S-S. He goes, yeah, that's it. And I said, no worries. And then I walked out of the shop. Now, I hopped in my car and I drove to Montville. Now, I was actually planning to go, funny enough, exactly where I'm going today, Condolilla Falls.
I love the synchronicities. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So I was planning to go to Condolilla Falls to do a walk. And I was actually in this mindset of connecting with Metatron. Metatron is an archangel, if you don't know who Metatron is. Metatron's considered the right hand to God. He's also one of the only archangels to have lived as a human.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Ezekiel? No, that's an archangel. Book of Enoch. It's Enoch. So Metatron was Enoch as a human, and then became Metatron as the archangel.
Right.
Anyway, it's a lot. That is a big tangent. But anyway, I had this real connection. I've got a bronze statue of Metatron in my house. It's in a light box, and for some reason, and there was a Metatron's cube necklace that I was looking at while the guy was talking about Brian Always. Anyway, so that was in my mind. I thought I'm going to go for this hike down Condolilla Falls. And as I'm driving through Montville, there's another crystal shop, which has, the one that has koala and the bubbles.
Crystal Multiverse. My bestest friend's partner owns that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Richard is the owner.
Yeah. Interesting guy. Anyway, so I went in there and I'm in the front section and I'm looking at, I've got a 10-year-old son, so I was looking at, there was like a plushie, sort of plush, whatever it was. And I'm kneeled down and this guy that was in Nexus walks into the shop, looks straight at me down, I'm squatting down, and he said, I just saw you in Nexus, didn't I? And I said, yeah. And he was very, very abrupt, like I'm doing. I just saw it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Anyway, he said, I actually wasn't going to stop here. I just had the compulsion that there was some reason I had to come in. And as soon as I walked in, I saw you and I realized that you're the reason I have to come in. I was like, oh, okay. And he said, do you know who Brian Always is? And I said, well, not really. I said, I know the books because my mum has them on the bookshelf. And he said, have you got a couple of minutes and I can share a story? And I said, yeah, sure. And I can't remember this guy, Jared. Yeah, his name was Jared. Anyway, Jared says to me, I went down to Northern Rivers and there was a retreat and I met this amazing lady, and the amazing lady offered for me to come and stay with her in Biwa. And so I was meant to go there for a couple of days. I've been there for 2 weeks. Okay. And he said, now, he goes, I'm only new to this new age stuff. And he said, but she had actually worked one-on-one with Brian Always.
Ah.
And she offered to take me through past life regression, and we've been through many. And he said, it's just blown my mind and opened my mind to all these incredible things that I had no idea about. And he said, I just have the feeling that you're meant to read this book. And I said, I know whenever I said, regardless if you told me I had to read this, I knew I had to read it just because you've come in here a second time. And anyway, and we started talking. I said, have you heard of Metatron? And he said, no. I said, well, it's interesting that you don't know who Metatron is, because on his arm, like you here, he had it wasn't a flower of life. It was it was a geometric shape, and it had meta something. It wasn't Metatron, it was meta something. And I said, well, that's actually telling me it was all like,
it was right there.
It was right there. It was almost like Metatron's cube shape, or the geometric shape of it. Not exactly. And then it said meta something. And I said, that's telling me that there's something greater at work here. Anyway, so then I went and did my walk, and I did connect with Metatron, and that's an ongoing thing. But it was such a bizarre occurrence, and not and we know when you have those synchronicities.
Yeah, or the serendipitous moments.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. This, and I love those things. Like, I live for those things, you know, and because I just find them fascinating. Like, it's so out of the ordinary. And again, like, I really feel for the people that don't see the magic in that. Like, that was pure magic in that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was even saying to my partner Cass on the phone this morning when I was getting all of the mics and all of the bits and pieces and tripod things set up, and you know, I was having issues with it yesterday. I bought one and there was a part missing, and then I had to take it back, and then I was like, that's not the one for me. And I said to him, I said, I know for whatever reason I had to be doing that round trip, or like my kids had to go to my parents' place. Something had to happen because of that. You know, I had to have a conversation with Cass at that time on the phone. You know, and it brought us here today to be, you know, having tech issues to then work through them and figure things out and bond over that.
Yeah.
You know?
I have become a handyman. You probably can't see it, but I actually created this little, anyway.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah, exactly. You've unlocked a new skill.
That's why this mic looks a little limp, and hopefully you've been able to hear me on the podcast.
This episode of the Enlighten podcast is proudly sponsored by the Sanctuary of Self, your portal to self-discovery and creating a sanctuary within. At the Sanctuary of Self, our philosophy is rooted in the belief that true transformation begins with knowing yourself deeply. Here you will find my signature programs. It's the home of all of my Tantra offerings, including in-person sessions in Brisbane, workshops and trainings all around Australia. I invite you to start with the Flourish Collective membership, a nurturing sanctuary for personal growth and transformation. This membership offers a greenhouse of resources, including workbooks, meditations, and soulful self-paced practices designed to help you cultivate alignment, purpose, and self-love. At only $44 per month with no lock-in contract, you can access an abundance of resources, videos, ebooks, meditations, and workshops with new content added monthly. Head to sanctuaryofself.love for all the juicy details.
I want to circle back again. So, because let's talk about authenticity, because that's where we wanted to take this.
Yeah.
Tell us about, like, we sort of touched on it, but tell us about some of the things that you notice in other people when they're not being authentic. Like, what's your, you know, how some people like just have a radar, a bullshit radar. Tell us about your inauthenticity radar.
Yeah. So my inauthenticity radar is actually, you're going to appreciate this, because I can spot bullshit because I have been bullshit.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So one of the biggest replacements that had to occur, and this is where Superman comes in. So you're going to appreciate this. So I was with my now ex-wife for almost 10 years. We were together for 12, and we broke up. I had a big financial upheaval that I caused, not on purpose. But what actually was, without telling you the whole story, what actually had occurred was a whole lot of untruth. Now, it wasn't that I was a full-blown liar, but I was a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say to you, from my definitely deep dive understanding of people pleasing, it's nothing to do with pleasing people. It's everything to do with what's not present in yourself. Self-worth, self-confidence. Anyway, so when I finally healed and was making the decision about what are the, you know, I worked with Bob Proctor. I worked with him closely, and he has a system that is, you know, what's your non-productive behaviors, and I'm talking about polarity. You can if there's a behavior or a belief that is not serving you, well, there's an exact and equal opposite. So what is that exact and equal opposite? Now, I wrote a whole list. I probably had like 50 things that needed to change, and most of them, I would say, have. And the number one was dishonesty. And what is the opposite of dishonesty? Well, truth. And I think probably a bit before I made this decision about that being the number one thing I had to focus on really embodying, which has become integrity, is Superman. This is where the Superman part comes in. Why do I show up as Superman? It's not a gimmick. It's because Superman has been a part of my life from the age of 1. My mum used to tell me this story about I would nag her for a Superman costume at the age of 1 because I love to dress up, as little kids do. And but I was very adventurous, like extreme. Like if she left the door open, I would be out down the street.
Oh God!
Like really, I even had, you know how kids have a leash. I had a leash.
Yep.
Because if I went to the shopping centre, there's no way you would not find me. So I was always being called out. Actually, if I didn't have the leash, I was always being called out over the radio, over the
PA.
Yeah, PA. Anyway, Superman has been a part of my life. Now, what does Superman stand for? He stands for truth and justice. And of course, he's a fictional character, but fiction. Well, everything is made from imagination, right? Anyway, he's a fictional character, but he stands for truth and justice. And millions of people love Superman. There's a new Superman movie on its way out. And I realized in the moment of having my Superman image go out online, because I had one of my first clients was a photographer, and he got me to bring something fun, because I was thinking, what's something fun? Oh, my Superman t-shirt. And I had this idea to turn from Clark Kent turning into Superman. And so I created this pose. I mean, the photographer took the photo, but I actually created the pose and the look. And when it went online, it went viral, like not just with my friends, but went viral with loads of other people I'd never met. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I went, hang on a minute. What is the transformation from Clark Kent to Superman? It's a metamorphosis.
Yeah.
You know, and so what had happened, what was occurring for me is I was letting go of my Clark Kent persona, like my people pleasing, my mild-mannered, you know, wanting to make sure I please everyone personality. I was letting go of that, and I was becoming my version of Superman. And I keep becoming even, you know, greater version of Superman, you know, in my own right. And so going back to the piece on authenticity, it really is about, inauthenticity. It really is about, I have a good radar because I was not speaking the truth. So I can recognize when people are speaking, and I would even say intuition kicks in.
Always.
Right?
Yeah.
and I can pick up. But it's not just what you hear, it's what you see.
And what you feel.
Yeah, and what you feel.
Yeah.
And what you feel. And so I would say my radar for BS is very high. My initials are BS too. Don't hold that against me.
I didn't realize that until now.
Yeah, I often say the BS stands for beautiful smile. Not bullshit. Anyway, but yeah, so in authenticity, you know, I think we all go through it until we get to the point of where we actually become more grounded. We let go of some of that trauma, but it's like that, you know, overused statement, which is you can lead a horse to water, you can't make a drink. But it's such a good analogy because that's the way it is in life. Like you could teach someone all of the modalities that you know, and they do nothing with it because they're not ready and they haven't really made a decision. So there's a whole and really and truly, like when it comes to transformation or when it comes to becoming that best version of yourself, it's not a short-term thing.
No, it can't be.
No,
no,
it takes time, and even though time's not real, but it does take, you know, what we see in our 3D reality. It does seemingly take time, and so you've got to be prepared to go on the journey. It can't just be and it can't just be, oh yeah, I've healed, done all my healing. No, you're never going to do all your healing.
No,
in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah,
my opinion, and that's actually talking about judgment. That's one of the things I often say, even with my clients. I'll say to them, look, I could tell you what I think is the truth, but really it's my truth. And even as you'll see on my book that you'll read later, when I was coming out with the actual title of my book was going to be The Truth Will Set You Free. But actually the word "the truth" kept feeling wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's not right. And so now the subheading of my book is Your Truth Will Set You Free. The actual name of it is the name of my business, which is Supercharged Freedom.
Yeah.
But your truth will set you free. And so I often say to clients and friends who might ask for advice, to say, look, everything I'm going to tell you is an opinion. And I think it's the truth, but it may not be the truth for you. So don't feel you have to do it, or don't feel that because you didn't do what I said might be the right. I don't care. Like, if you want some advice, sure, I'll give you some advice, but it really is just an opinion.
Yeah, it's true. And this is why it's so important as coaches that we lead people to find what they need within themselves, not our projection of what we can see as their potential or, you know, what they could benefit from. They've got to get there within themselves if they can. If not, then sure, ask my opinion. I'll give it to you.
and that is the thing, isn't it? It's like when you go through coaching, when you go through mentoring, yeah, sure, you'll get some advice or some tips or some really solid things that help you. But if you don't do the work, you don't get the result.
Absolutely.
Like it's all up to the individual. So, you know, it's, it's a prerequisite of mine. I won't take on any coaching client if I don't feel intuitively that they're actually ready.
I agree. I'm the same. Or the universe does its thing where we'll have a conversation about it and something's not right and they will move on. And sometimes they come back, they're like, okay, I'm ready now. Yeah. And this is why I don't chase. No. You know, I don't chase any clients. You know, I don't chase men. You know what I mean? Like I have a partner, but my theory with that is that's another turn to the egg. Don't chase the sperm. Right? So it's not up to the woman to do that. But I also feel like, you know, working from the space that I'm in anyway, it's not up to me to chase someone down to be like, I've got the modality that you need in order to change because I know that will help you. I mean, I do have it if they want it, but they've got to know that they want it. They've got to come after it because, and this is another thing as well, like I would never book in a client where their partners book them in to see me.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to reach out to me. They've got to make the call or send the email or send through the inquiry form. They have to be the ones to get in touch with me, not their partner saying, go and see Jen for this, sort this out. Absolutely not. Yeah. It's a full body fuck no for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I love what you were saying about like the metamorphosis journey, you know, from going from, you know, yourself to Superman or the Clark Kent to Superman. And we all have that within us, you know, and if we don't know what that is, model the butterfly. Yeah. You know, model the caterpillar to the butterfly experience. Yeah. It doesn't have to be something as extravagant as Superman because that's what you've always loved. And I mean, it's amazing because it resonates with you and everyone's going to be thinking, oh, well, I don't have my thing. Do I have to go back to my childhood and work out who I was? It's like, no, like it could even be, you might, if you want a physical thing, change your hair, change your styling, you know, change something within you, change the type of jewelry that you wear.
Yeah. You know, just on that, like I had plenty of people saying, oh, I should figure out what my superhero is. And it's like, not really. I said, I didn't do it to figure out what my superhero is. It just happens to be a part of my journey and it's been around for my whole life.
Yes.
So Superman is not, that's why I say it's not a gimmick. It's something, it's a part of me. It's my authentic piece. So as much, and it's just handy and useful that a lot of people know who Superman is.
It helps, absolutely.
But I should have brought the book over. On my cover, I actually created a logo, which is my Supercharged logo. You'll see. And I created that specifically because I was planning to go big. The next conversation that I'll be having up at Condoleezza Falls is how to help these individuals to learn how to play big, stop playing small.
Yeah.
And I knew even at the point where I didn't feel like, oh, who am I? Like as if I'm going to be someone, you know, that people go, oh my gosh, Brett D. Scott. But I purposely, I knew at an early point I had to cover up Superman. If I'm going to put anything out there like books or anything that's, you know, monetized, then I have to make sure that DC Comics don't come one day and go, hey, Brett, we need our millions of dollars.
That's a thing, isn't it? Because I've seen even people like that's happening with Disney. Yeah. Disney's really, really like strong on their trademarks and their copyright and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So as much, I'll use it, you know, in fun. And you can use it on social media. It's not really a big thing. But when it comes to me making money off things, so my book, has got my so my emblem, even though it is Superman underneath the actual photo, it looks like I have a supercharged emblem instead.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So
yeah. Well played. Yeah, in the 3D world. Yeah.
And and supercharged, like what is supercharged freedom? this is a tangent, but supercharged freedom, I remember when I first started as a coach, I created my business name. I registered with ASIC, Be Positive Mindset and Fitness. Now, I used to be a personal trainer. I used to run a gym. So I was thinking if mindset doesn't work, then I'll have fitness to fall back on. And being positive, my blood type's B positive, but
so is mine. I literally say it is in my blood to be positive.
Yeah. And it's true. See? It is so true. It is true. But being positive actually saved my life. So I considered, 10 years ago, August of 2014, I did consider taking my own life when my big financial upheaval happened. And when I look at it now, it actually wasn't that big. But at the time, there was no money, there was no savings. We were pregnant, 3 months pregnant. You can imagine being a woman pregnant and your husband's just fucked up your life. It wasn't good. But I thought, well, as my downward spiral for minutes, not hours, not days, not weeks, for minutes, I was thinking about all the stupid decisions or all the sabotage that I'd done, which I'm sure everyone has their story. But I was, in this moment, thinking about I've got to go and tell my wife, my now ex-partner, the great news of the big debt that I've got to figure out how to fix. And I did fix it in less than a year. Anyway, but in that moment, the thing that saved me was being positive. And what happened? I started to cry. And as I was crying, for the first time as an adult, which is pretty sad, but probably quite true for some men, and I used to say I'm the gayest straight guy going around because I like to wear bright colours. But I used to think that I'm not a masculine man, but actually internally I was very, let's say, toxic in some ways, and so that's why I can spot bullshit, because I was bullshit to a point. And and I might say I wasn't as bad as others, but I was still, not right. Anyway, being positive saved my life. And so I thought maybe that should be the name of my business. Within 2 weeks, I realized it just didn't feel right. Number one, there's no fitness. I'm not doing the fitness again. I'm only doing mindset. Mindset is the thing. Then I went, well, what do people really want? What do people really want? They want freedom. And everyone has a different view of what freedom is. And so my first business name was Freedom Coaching. Freedom Coaching with Brett D. Scott. And that felt good. And it was great. And there was a kind of a superhero emblem that was created for that particular business name. And as I started to move along the journey, and my book took 3.5 years to write, that's a whole nother story. And I made a decision to, this is another longer story, which I won't do. I made a decision to create a program, my own first program, because I used to train people through Bob Proctor's work. And I thought, what am I going to call it? And what am I actually going to train people on? Because I don't want to just train people. I don't want to recreate Bob's work and say it's mine. And in my book, I'd written 10 chapters. It wasn't complete, but I'd written 10 chapters. And all the chapters, they were a lesson. Wow. And there were 3 or 4 different lessons inside each. I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually already created in my book.
It's already been channeled through me.
Yeah. And so my program came out before my book came out. And then my book came out in 2022. And the founder and the editor of Think and Grow Rich magazine up in Noosa, she actually launched my book at a little bookstore in Noosa. Noosa's where the big financial upheaval happened. My ex and I were living up there at the time. We moved. That was our dream location. Had a vision board, and all the things were being ticked off the vision board. But, I had some issues inside that weren't dealt with. And so, going back to Be Positive or Supercharged Freedom. So what is Supercharged Freedom? Why it upgraded was, of course, Superman, but what is being supercharged? It's actually being locked into what it is you're doing. Locked into what you're doing. And I've created an incredible life of freedom. And it doesn't mean that it's always, what's the word? It's not always, I was going to say pushing up daisies. No, that's not it. It's not
Rainbows
always,
and butterflies.
That's the one. Rainbows and butterflies. Yeah. Not always,
it's not?
No,
what?
Yeah. It's not always pretty, but I have created a really beautiful life of freedom. And I am supercharged. Like I really am so heavily locked into what I'm doing. And that's what everyone can have. When you talked about, you don't have to figure out what your superhero is, but what I think everyone should do if they're serious about living their best life, it's actually, what is it that I can do? I don't mean necessarily purpose, because that's another
one. That's another one.
That's another deep one.
Yeah.
But figuring out what is it that I can actually do that enables me to go on that journey of really unlocking and learning and letting go.
Yeah. And finding something within themselves. And this is like, we can have a totally other conversation on passion and purpose, because a lot of people do think that purpose is what you do with your everyday life, and it can be, and you can monetize off it, but it doesn't have to be either. No. And this is where a lot of people get caught up, because they rely on their passion and their purpose to be their sole income as well. And sometimes, like, it absolutely can be that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the two correlate together. So I love that you've done it. I love the supercharge of that, because even just being in that mindset, when you embody that, when that becomes part of you and you become just aligned with that, that's how you wake up in the morning feeling supercharged.
Yeah.
That's why every decision that you make, you know that you're moving towards what it is that you do want to experience, or you do want to achieve, or you do want to, anything that you want to move towards, and every decision that we make is either moving us towards where we want to be or away from where we don't want to be.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot
and
on.
So to be able to embody that mindset of being supercharged, it's like, to me, that's almost like got this really powerful force behind you as well, that you're unstoppable, that that you're unstoppable because it's the supercharge. I love that so much.
Yeah. It is. And, and I think the beautiful part is, as we might have said earlier on, everyone has it inside them. Like, we're not special. Well, we are, but we're not.
I'm sorry, what? Speak for yourself.
we're not special in the way that everyone has an ability to do great things and to be a version that they like the things that I do. And like, often people go, how on earth do you do all of these different amazing things? Well, number one, especially this year, I've not actually reached out for anything. Everything's come to me.
Yes.
Oh, what a surprise. But that took me doing the work in the early days, right?
Yes.
I planted the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is, for all of us, it's about continually focusing on, upgrading yourself. But the thing that the word up there, cherished, the thing that I cherish on your sign, the thing that I cherish is actually, am I actually doing enough to help others? And I even saw it today in an email. He said, from one of my mentors, saying, are you doing more? Are you doing more? I'm trying to think how was put. Are you doing more or taking more? Something like that. Are you giving more? Yeah, I can't remember the exact words, but along the lines of, are you putting out more than you're actually taking? And that's something that I'm often thinking about. Am I, because we all have it, right? Like, we're the center of our own universe. And so we're often thinking, well, what's in it for me? And why should I do this?
Yeah.
And the more the way I go through life these days is, what can I give? As much as I can. Not perfect, but I do my best to think, what can I give? Even yesterday, I thought, one of my friends had actually got me a gig, an MC gig, and I hadn't really done anything to help her. And it hit me that I actually wanted to reach out to her. So I reached out to her, said, what are you doing? Where are you at? What can I do to help? And then I connected her with someone immediately, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So it's paying attention to where you're going and being aware of, I don't know, maybe being a good person.
Yeah. And like, without the desire to receive back anything either, it just happens.
Yeah.
Like, I love how that happens. Like, yesterday, it really called to me. I went to dropped the kids off to school. We were running earlier than what they could get into the gates. I said, you guys go play in the playground. I'm going to go order a coffee. And it hit me there and then pay the next coffee forward. And usually I would just want to do that on the slide to be like, oh, can you just cover the next person's? And the poor cashier had no idea what to do to make that happen. So I said, well, can you just like charge me for another coffee the next person? She's like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, so I turned to the girl behind me and I said, I'm here to pay a coffee forward. What can I get you?
Yeah.
You know, and she was so grateful. And I didn't do that because I'm like, oh, someone's going to buy me a coffee one day. Do you know what I mean? Like, not at all, because I've had people buy me coffees. I've had people, you know, it's not about that. I just, in that moment, I was like, that's what I'm called to do. And I love that feeling of seeing her face light up that she's receiving something.
Do you know, I love that you're saying that, because, you know, when you like, I'm sure all of us where, you know, if you're going to the city or maybe in your own suburb, there's homeless people, there's people that are begging, there's people that are busking. And I don't give to everything, even though I might want to. I don't do it unless I feel the pull.
The pull, yes.
You don't feel the pull. If I don't feel the pull, then I don't do it. But I love to give.
Yes.
But I know if I gave everything, then what am I? I'm left with nothing. But and in saying that, of course, we could say, well, actually, we'll come back to you. Oh, yeah. This is a quick tangent. this might. I'm not sure where we're at time wise.
Doesn't matter. Keep rolling.
So the big thing that I'm working on is a friend of mine, Kim Serafini, has a software called Positive Prime. Talking about anxiety, it actually puts your brain into a flow state of joy, happiness, creativity, productivity, focus in less than 3 minutes every single time, even the first time, and it lasts for 6 to 8 hours. It's incredible software. It's been proven scientifically through the University of Technology in Sydney. It's we went on the journey in 2023 to create a TV show. I'll try and make this shorter because it's a long story. So we're going to create a TV show called The Changemaker, which was helping social entrepreneurs around the world who want to grow and scale their mission to positively impact the world. Incredible idea. And my role, they called me the super connector because I have a lot of connections worldwide. And so they got me to introduce potential mentors for the show. Now, we got to a certain point. We had to build this software because the lady who's creating the show, who's now creating a movie for us, but the lady who was going to create the TV show, she's the director, producer of, I was going to say Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She was. That was her first gig, Beverly Hills and OC. But she actually runs, for the last 10 years, she's been running The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, and now the new Golden Bachelor. So she's very good at creating TV. She also used to create, do all the multicam or look after the production and the directing of the Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, the Super Bowl halftime. So she knows how to create, and she's got 2 Emmy Awards herself. Wow. She knows how to create incredible production.
Oh, does she want a job at Enlightened Podcast?
I don't know, will it pay? So anyway, the reason I plant that for everyone is that we have something really spectacular. And now, we got to a point at the end of 2023 where, without telling you the whole story, there was about $500,000 that Kim was out of pocket. Now, I haven't even had this discussion with Kim, but I'm discussing it with you because I think it correlates with how whatever you put out will come back, especially when you're putting it out for the right reasons, right? So $500,000 gone, nothing to show for it. Like all of the software that was meant to have been built, not built properly. This guy even the software engineer tried to sue. Anyway, but we got through it. Kim went through a whole lot of healing last year. I did my own thing, won a lot of awards, which was great. And this year we're starting again. But at the end of last year, on the 11th of the 11th, on the 11th of the 11th, I actually launched that I was going to do my group coaching again. I was going to relaunch my group coaching. On the exact same day, Kim rings me and she lets everyone know she's just been given by the, what are they called? I was going to say the IRS, that's not right. by the, whatever I can't think of the name, but anyway, the big, one of the big Australian Research Council, ARC. An ARC grant, the Australian Research Council, is the prestigious Australian government grant office. They've one of only 2 people last year. She was one of only 2 people to be given $500,000 as a grant.
Oh, I
to further research and develop with AI and
Yes.
machine learning technology, the app for Positive Prime. Now, from that point, Kim rang me and said, Brett, we're back on. We're not doing a TV show now. We're actually doing an event called, it's a thought leader accelerator, but we're calling it the Positive Prime Global Summit. We're filming a movie. It was going to be about positive priming. It's going to be called 3 Minutes because, of course, it gets your brain.
3 minutes,
doesn't 3 minutes. But actually now, and this is a longer story I'm not going to go into, but now we're creating a movie called Pure Unlimited Love.
Wow. Oh, I love that already.
Yeah. It's very altruistic, but there's a backstory to it that'll make a lot of sense. But the reason I bring it up in the idea of what you put out or spending or, thinking, but, what if that doesn't come back? Well, Kim thought, well, that's just gone. But actually, she got it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
She got it back. And so many other things have happened now.
Yeah.
And it is a long story, but it's, why am I working with her instead of continually building on my brand? Because her mission is actually even bigger than mine.
Yeah, it's collaborating with someone with a beautiful vision that you're like, I can see myself part of this. Yeah.
And so why is Positive Prime, it has the potential of being a $1 billion app, just like the meditation one.
Insight Timer.
No. Keep going.
Calm?
Yes, Calm.
Got you. Yeah.
So Calm was started by two guys, and they built it up, and now it's $1 billion value.
Wow.
Business. I think they turn over $200 million a year.
Amazing.
But not for the money's sake of it, but it's for the amount of people.
The amount of people that use it and then get benefit from it, and then they share it around, because if something's good, you talk about it. Yeah.
And so think about the current world we're in, social media, podcasts like this one. No, but social media especially, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of, you look, like we said at the beginning, you're looking at all these people who, they look good, they sound good, they're successful. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? And most people on social media are not telling you, of course, what's going on. I do, and I'm sure you do as well, when shit doesn't go well. And only just so people can know, but where I'm going with this is that software, it's actually going to regulate people's emotions.
Wow.
It takes people out of high-level cortisol and it reduces cortisol and it increases oxytocin.
I love that. Yeah.
That's the simple way.
It's like a hug in an app.
It's a hug in an app. Yeah. Hug yourself. Yeah, you don't even need it.
Hug yourself. There we go. You got the tagline for you sorted.
and so maybe to finish here, why I'm mentioning that is that when I think about, my mission is to help millions of people to be their own, whatever their vision is of success and freedom, to help more people be more successful and have their life of freedom. But actually this mission that Kim's got and has been for the last 10 years is so much bigger than mine. It doesn't mean it's better. It just means that she can actually make a bigger difference in a not in a shorter time, but I have the ability, I have some skills that she needs. And so I may as well, offer my service to her, because then it allows me to grow with that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love collaboration. I'm all about collaborating with other people and working together, because when you've got two people with, mission focus and that are visionaries and that are able to take action, that's supercharged to me. Collaboration is supercharged. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear, Brett, before we wrap up, what are 3 things that you want to let our audience know if they want to really start embodying authenticity? 3 really simple things that they can integrate into their life.
3 things. Number 1, we've mentioned it, have an open mind. Well, start to become more aware of things that you maybe didn't think were truth before, and start to remove some of the layers. So maybe it's open mind is number 1. Number 2, I would say learn, read, study, whatever you're interested in, but in something that actually can improve you. So whatever it is, modality wise, but I love mindset because I was so stuck, in my mind, with elements that were holding me back. And my first mentor that I followed, Bob Proctor, was an incredible mindset coach. So of course I'm not doing it the way that he did it. I'm doing it in my own unique way, authentic. And so I'd say, do that. So learning, so open mind, learning. What's the third thing? I would say support, like support others. Support others as much as you can. The more you give out, like the more, like that's the focus for me. And sometimes, and this is the breaking down of that, worrying about what other people think. You know, I heard something the other day, I shared with another friend, which was, if you're getting criticism from someone that you don't aspire to be like, why do you care?
Yeah.
If you don't aspire to be anything like that person, you really shouldn't care. And it really cemented in my mind, and it got me to think about some people who are kind of in my sphere of influence and weren't very supportive, and it was annoying me, it was frustrating me. And then when I really got that idea in my mind, I was like, do they really matter? Like, are they actually, like, have they ever done anything that they've tried to help me? No. And not that that really matters, but if people aren't supporting you, if people aren't encouraging you, if people aren't getting behind you, don't worry about those people. But whoever you do care about and whoever you do see that you actually think maybe I can support or help them, do your best to do it, right?
Yeah.
Or even just offer, even if they say no. At least you're trying. Is that helpful?
I love that. I love that. That's perfect. I also, every time I get a coach come on the show, I want to also speak into the fact that, I mean, yes, there is that element of superhero, but we've all got our stuff as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are perfect in every way by any means, you know, and there's this pedestal that sometimes we end up on just because we have the tools to move through things. So I'd love to hear, probably from a space of vulnerability, if you want to share, what's something that you're just working through within yourself at the moment?
One thing, Jesus. What do I want to share with everyone? I think the number one thing that I've been working on really is letting go of the worry about other people. And again, it in part it is confidence in yourself, but I think when you're empathetic or you're compassionate, and you do like the person, or you do like what the person does, then you can be triggered by that. So, but I think it's really about, for me, the biggest one that I'm working on really is letting go of the, you know, it's a bit overused, but, you know, stop giving an F about what people think. And so that's the number one thing that I would say I'm really working on. There are numerous things. But I think when we first started the conversation before we got on camera, like, in my mind, that's the number one thing that I'm thinking about quite often is, you know, and it's almost like peeling back layers of an onion.
It is.
It's not about being like completely improving immediately, because it doesn't happen.
No, and it's too overwhelming if you, one, think that you can, and two, try to do it that way.
Yeah. So I'd say, for me, the current level of awareness that I'm at is, I'm not where I want to be in regards to not caring about some of those people that I shouldn't care about, right?
Yeah.
But the reason it's so important to me is I know that in a very short space of time, I'm going to be more well-known through what I'm doing. And so when that happens, there's going to be a lot more, unfortunately, negativity.
Yeah, there can be. Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be polarizing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The duality of it. So I just need to be okay within myself and I want to be able to be that Superman with, like, think of him as bullets just bouncing off my chest.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. One final question before we wrap up.
Cool.
Brett Scott, to you, what is the meaning of life?
Oh, okay. Do you know, like I'm sure a lot of people, that question, we think about it, right? So to me, my belief is I am a spirit having a human experience. And so even though I'm showing up as this guy, amazing looking, called Brett,
Cool jacket.
Cool jacket. I had a hat as well, but I thought, no, it's going to be too hot. And even though I'm showing up as this person now with characters, it's not the real me. And so why am I here? What's the meaning of life? The meaning of life, and actually, like many lives, many masters, it's going through that cycle of figuring out what things you need to either improve, let go of. And so it's about, yes, becoming a better version of yourself, but I think we come into each lifetime. It's not really time. We come into each life experience with things that we haven't resolved. And so I feel like the meaning of life has two parts in my mind. And by the way, when I say this, the immediate thing that happens to me when I think about answering something, I think, well, that's just at the moment, because my awareness is going to change.
Always.
More knowledge you get, the more, and this is why I devour books, because it's, different people's perception or perspective on different things allows me to grow. And so I'd say to you, my current level of awareness on this answer is that there's two parts. Number one, just as I said, it's about me, and one of those things was becoming more truthful, right? And I'm still not completely there. There's still plenty of work to do on that too. I'm not 100%. So it's about it's about removing, no, that's not the word. It's about fixing, no, it's about figuring out how to do something better and to maybe end the cycle of a few different areas. But then the second part, and I think just as important, is how much you can help others.
I love that.
So I feel like the bigger a difference I can make in a genuine way, not for my name, but just for the fact that I can leave knowing that I've helped more people. And here's the clincher on this, is that my belief is that I am you, you are me, that we are all actually one. We're connected.
All connected.
Yeah, we're all connected. And so we're all having this individualized experience, but we're actually all from the one thing. And we might say the one source of God. And so, so my feeling is we're having these all at the same time, there's different experiences, and it's about figuring out how to maneuver ourselves through and growing so that you can actually, I keep going to say repair or fix.
Yeah,
hey,
alchemize, magic.
That's another story I should take.
We'll save it. We'll definitely save it for the next one.
Okay.
Brett, you are such a fantastic human. Thank you for sharing all parts of yourself. You are one of the most authentic people I've met, so you're truly embodying your message. Thank you so much for being part of the Enlightenment podcast.
Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
We'll definitely have you again soon. There's so much more to go through.
Yeah, so one of the other, I'm just going to pop on the scene. This is for the future. So one of the other names that I'm called is the Success Alchemist.
Yes.
And that actually came to me in a dream. So I'll tell you about that next time.
Okay. The Success Alchemist, we'll have him on the show again. We will link to every way in which you can connect with, contact, and work with Brett in the show notes.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightenment podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is enlightenment_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightenment, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.